Hi, so this video podcast is describing some of the differences between what we call regular and emergency rulemaking in the state of California. The Office of Administrative Law, OAL, is charged with ensuring that agency and department regulations in California are clear, necessary, legally valid, and available to the public. So OAL is responsible for reviewing the regulations that have been adopted by California's more than 200 state agencies and departments that are granted rulemaking authority. Of course, similar to the federal government, the formal rulemaking process in this state is established by the California Administrative Procedure Act, the APA, similar to its federal counterpart and those used in the other 49 states. The APA is found in the California Government Code, and it also sets forth the criteria by which OAL reviews all of the proposed regulations. So again, every department, division, office, officer, bureau, board, commission, all the different terms in the executive branch of California state government are required by law to follow the rulemaking procedures in the APA, as well as regulations that have been adopted by the Office of Administrative Law that are in Title I of the CCR, the California Code of Regulations, unless that state executive branch entity is expressly exempted by statute from some or all of the APA requirements. Now, beyond that broad overview, there are two types of rulemaking in the state of California. OAL says that those two types of rulemaking procedures that a state agency can pursue are regular or emergency. Again, both of these are set forth in the APA and the OAL regulations. The regular rulemaking process requires that a state agency meet certain public hearing and notice requirements. The main two tenets of the APA, in my mind, are notice and opportunity to be heard. The emergency rulemaking process has different requirements, but generally includes a much abbreviated public notice period, a very brief public comment period, shortened review by the OAL, and then, of course, as with regular rulemaking, ends with an OAL decision. Now, whether engaged in the regular or emergency rulemaking process, that state agency or department is still bound to follow the procedural requirements found in the APA, such as compiling the contents of the rulemaking record, certain timeframes, public participation, etc. Now, the vast majority of regulations, as you would probably venture to guess, are adopted under the regular rulemaking procedures. And unless a proposed rulemaking action is submitted to OAL as an emergency rulemaking or is otherwise exempted from all or part of the APA, then the regular rulemaking process has to be complied with. And again, the regular rulemaking process includes very comprehensive public notice and comment requirements that have to be complied with by the state agency and the executive branch of government. The other aspect of the rulemaking process is the required documents and information on which the rulemaking action is based, and that those are made available for public review and inspection. The comprehensive process that's described in the APA is obviously intended to achieve the goal of public participation in the rulemaking process and to also create what the courts deem an adequate rulemaking record, not only for review by the OAL, but also, if necessary, by the courts themselves. In terms of the original rulemaking process, the general rule is that a state agency may adopt emergency regulations in response to a situation that calls for immediate action to avoid some sort of serious harm to the public peace, health, safety, or general welfare of the public. Or sometimes, on occasion, a statute deems a situation to be an emergency under the APA, and therefore That state entity granted that rulemaking authority can treat their rulemaking as an emergency and comply with only the emergency rulemaking procedures found in the APA. Now, because emergency regulations are intended to avoid serious harm and they require immediate action by the agency, the emergency rulemaking process is substantially abbreviated in comparison to the regular rulemaking process. And OAL reviews emergency regulations for compliance naturally with the government code provisions of the APA that specify the requirements for emergency rulemaking to comply with. If emergency rulemaking is undertaken, what is called a Form 400 is used by the agency, and this contains the proposed text, the finding of emergency that's been submitted by the rulemaking entity, and these documents can be revised or even withdrawn during the OAL review process. And unless the emergency situation clearly poses an immediate serious harm, and that delaying action to allow public comment would be inconsistent with the public interest, then OAL only allows 5 calendar days for public comments after posting a notice of the filing of the proposed emergency regulation on the OAL website. In addition, some agencies and departments have requirements related to regular or emergency rulemaking that might be unique to that particular agency or department. So of course you want to check the statutes providing that authorization to those individual executive branch entities. The APA standards and procedures were substantially revised effective January 1, 2007. And so definitely the agencies and departments need to review those provisions of the APA and the implementing regulations in Title I before undertaking an emergency rulemaking.